Oneness Evolving here. Lovely to see you. I am inside and clearly wrapped up because it's quite cold out there. And so here I am inside, and because I'm inside and it's wet and, sort of unpleasant, I got rocks. I've got rocks. I haven't been able to show you rocks for ages because the weather's been so cooperative on Wednesdays at lunchtime. So where shall I start? These two kind of go together. But I'm going to start. I'm going to put this somewhere safe. This is, it's golden calcite, right? And I love it because it matches everything. It's very clearly got a plane that cuts through it, and you can see the angles because the calcite crystals, see that shape there? That is just the way the crystals form. And that's just what calcite does. And I really, see there's a line there. I really enjoy how this crystal shows the structure. It's pretty transparent. It's sort of misty here, but really clear and optical on this side. And you can see the shape, the structure, which if you could look in an electron microscope, you would see that it's a lattice of calcium and other things, because my chemistry isn't at all. But that's calcite, and I just really like this golden calcite ball. It's beautiful. And in case you wonder when I'm going to start talking about the law of attraction and all that stuff and why I'm showing you crystals, it's because Facebook Lives take a little while to get established and to be shared out. And so to make it possible for people to go, oh, there's something happening and I want to come on, I just like to enjoy a little beauty and share a little gratitude for something nice in my life before I get into the main thing. So that's the calcite. I'm going to put it somewhere that won't roll because, the thing about spheres. There's no such problem with this. This, of course, is a Merkaba. It's also made of calcite, but it's brown calcite. Browny, orangey thing. And it's lovely. It's given to me by somebody because I did something for them and I can't even remember what it is. But I remember the person who gave it to me and I do enjoy it. Maybe if I hold it this way, there'll be more light on it because my hand won't be in the way. Because it's quite a dark day out there, so there's not an enormous amount of light coming in the window. But I enjoy how this thing changes as it spins. It's got an axis. It could spin just as easily this way. It's got rotational symmetry in lots of different directions. But I really enjoy it. And look at these interesting inclusions that you can see in this little piece of it. But they disappear when you turn it round. So it's just a lovely piece of brown calcite, and I enjoy its shape and being able to share the details with you. And it's quite nicely polished, it's shiny. So that's our little journey into the crystals on the shelf that don't get to play very often. I used to do it a lot. But now I want to tell you what I've written today. Excuse me, making the camera wobble. What I've written today for God of Me. See, here's my little list of songs. Not songs. I am not going to burst into song right now. And I'm going to put the clock there where I can see it. So this week should really be entitled Oneness's Exploding Model. Because in this week's writing, the zero point field is actually talking about me as an example. And so let me go over this, but really this is what it was titled. Because the thing about what I banged into big time and really struggled with the law of attraction is that you're supposed to think and feel like you have the thing you desire, and you're supposed to just keep doing that until it turns up. At least that was my perception of it at the time. And to be honest, that made me want to barf. I just so struggled with that because, and it took me a long time to realize why I struggled with that. Really, it took ages. One of the problems was that the things that excited me don't excite lots of other people. I don't get excited by, I want the house and the car and the, hi Carrie, great to see you, honey. I'm just not into that. I never have been, but it took me a long time to really realise I'm never going to be able to set one of those specific goals that people get all excited about because it doesn't excite me. Yes, it's really nice to have enough, and I am so grateful I have enough. But if I had 20 million bucks, I would not spend it on a mansion or expensive cars or holidays or travel. I don't get jived about that stuff. So that was a big deal for me to realize, okay, I'm not like that. One of the other things that I couldn't do was fake it till you make it. Believe me, I tried it a few times and the internal kickback was so powerful. It was just like, oh, hell. How, and I didn't even realize this at the time. This is really what was going on, but I didn't understand it. How on earth do I make these things that I'm wanting to affirm as being real in my life actually feel true? And there was a whole lot I didn't understand about that. But it was so horrible internally, and I didn't understand that I hated the very thought of those things, of trying to do it. And a good example of that was, for a long time, people said, oh, you need to feel joy, just feel joy. And I was like, oh, piss off with your joy. I hated the very thought of trying to feel that emotion because it was so far away from me. I didn't understand why I hated it, but that was really what was going on. And years and years later, after I'd started studying with Dr. Joe Dispenza and applying those meditations, I realized, oh my goodness, my heart is frozen, stiff, shut, closed, doesn't work. Oh gee, maybe that's the reason why elevated emotions are so freaking impossible to find. And so I just kept working with that, and working on healing and all that stuff. But it was very slow to change, and I sort of understand that better now. But one of the other things that I realized, in which has been a thought that I've had for years, and these are all my reasons why the law of attraction thing just didn't work, was this idea of being in an elevated state of emotion, feeling wonderful all day long, struck me as being quite unsustainable. First of all, I couldn't find that wonderful feeling anyway, so how the hell am I going to do it all day? And secondly, I can't be like that and focus on my work. I mean, actually you can, but I had no idea that was possible. It's like, there are some places and people where you need to not be feeling like that. It's like you need to not be exploding all over the place with joy and excitement. And I just, to me, it was like, well, even if I could do this, would it really be appropriate to be feeling fantastic all day long? So I really struggled with the law of attraction thing, and it really made me want to throw up. Just because it was so far away from how I felt inside, except I didn't really understand how I felt inside. So it was a double whammy because I was having all these reactions and responses and hell, this is impossible, but I didn't actually understand, didn't perceive, didn't realize what was going on inside me. So beyond all of that, what was really going on was I felt incredibly powerless, really powerless. I felt like a little person stuck inside a little body, and I got a mind and I can think and I can try to feel, but in terms of changing anything in my life, I feel like I'm taking a bucket of water and throwing it against a mile-high cliff. Yeah, right, that's really going to change anything. Not. So that was how I really felt inside. And of course, until I even realized that was how I really felt, there's no way you can change how you really feel about things until you actually realize how you really feel. Up until then, you're not dealing with what's really true for you. So you can't change it to have another truth if you don't know what your truth really is. So, it took me all this time to figure that out. Just that. Oh my God, I feel so powerless, and I was really, really lackful. And I didn't know it. But if you think about what we've been talking about in the last however long, what the 0 Point Field and I have been kind of downloading and I've been translating, if you and I, excuse me, if our lives are the outpicturing of a pattern that is a resonance that is through the entire universal 5-dimensional field that's sort of beyond space and time, and I was resonating at that, if I was feeling and thinking and feeling and being that person, how heavy and how dense was that frequency, was my frequency and the pattern that I was being out there beyond 3D, which was being outpictured in me in 3D. How could it possibly be anything else? When I look back, I understand how dense and lackful and powerless and everything else my resonance, my frequency pattern was. Of course it couldn't be any different. Of course I couldn't magnetize or attract anything that I wanted in my life. I was resonating with, I can't. And I mean really powerfully, I can't. So I couldn't. It's just how it worked. So, and there was a day when I sort of got to the point, because I was doing activity to create stuff, and there was a day, the 6th of July in 2021, where I just put it all down because it wasn't working. And I went into the void, and the 0 point field tells this story, and it tells it differently from how I would. But I put it down and I went into the void of not knowing what comes next, because I wanted to create something. Right? But what I was doing wasn't working. I had no idea what was going to work. I just gave up. I just let go. And I went into the void and I stayed there for about 18 months. And then some things began to land inside me. And about 6 months after that, or sometime, about 5 or 6 months in June 2023, it was the first little sort of stirrings of life and God of me on Patreon. And it's amazing to me that it's been 2 years since then. And it's not like it's been meteoric. It's been slow. But I found a pattern. I found a shape. All that's going on. And the question that the 0 point field then asks is, okay, so this is oneness here, feeling incredibly powerless and lackful and all of that. And now here we are, and oneness is doing God of me, and it's still not huge or anything, but she's feeling pretty different. What happened in those 18 months? And I never stopped to think about that. Not really. I was too busy living it. But the 0 point field said, okay, what happened? And so we wrote it down. And really what happened was I could let go of all the activity, and I had time to go deeper in my meditation practice, which was really important. And I also started to seek new information. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to build on the beautiful foundation that I had absolutely absorbed into my bones and my soul from Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I just really wanted to add new information. And I poked around a bit, and I read a book, and I listened to this and that. And then I bumped into the work of Nassim Haramein, and I know you've heard me talk about his work. But basically, once I fought my way into the concepts, and it was difficult because they are challenging concepts, because they're not rooted in 3D. And we're used to thinking in 3D, and these are these are quantum concepts and big ideas that you really have to put your energy and attention into to just try to wrap your head around it. But I got to this point where my whole model of reality started to just explode. My whole model of how things work, and in particular, and this is beautifully explained in what the 0 point field and I wrote today, in particular, I stopped feeling little by little, it wasn't in an instant, but I stopped feeling like this little isolated person in a body with a brain throwing water at a mile-high cliff, going nowhere, unable to change anything, disconnected from everything, completely isolated, lost and alone in this unfriendly, unfathomable world, which really was how I felt. And now I understand that I'm so intimately connected with all of it, which in itself is like, oh, well, that's great, whoopee. How does that help? Well, and there's this whole series of things that I learned. I got new information. I'm not my body. Every proton contains the entire information of divine mind, God, source, the universe, whatever you want to call it, the 0 point field. It's all in one proton. Sheesh. I don't have to go anywhere to access all the information in the universe. I just have to go inside one proton. Wow. And then I discovered that if I can change how one proton resonates, I will change all of them because they're all connected, and the communication from one proton to all the rest of them happens in less than no time. And isn't that incredible? You mean I can put my awareness in one proton and change something in there and they'll all know instantly? Yeah, that is actually true. Not woo-woo. This is what the math says. And that was like mind-blowing, paradigm-altering. Suddenly I'm not this little person stuck in a body throwing water at a cliff. I'm in a body that's full of gazillions and gazillions and, stupid numbers of protons, and every single one of them has this capacity for me to connect and do something in it. Okay, I'm not separate from all the things I want to change anymore. Oh. And then what that did was it made, as I kept learning, I began to understand, because I know I've said this before, but I used to think, okay, I'm in my body, I have feelings, and they make a magnetic field that my body radiates, and I have thoughts, and they make an electrical charge, a field in my brain, and I make this electromagnetic field around my body, and that's what I send out into the universe to create change and to attract things to me. And my model of that exploded. It's the other way around. I'm a frequency that's through the entire universe entangled with every single one of those protons, and I outpicture this three-dimensional body here to have an experience. So, geez, that little three-dimensional electromagnetic field that I create is really cool, and there's a lot you can do with that. But what happens, the reason why you can do a lot with it, is because if you do it right, you change your pattern in 5D, and then the outpicturing changes. And it was like turned on its head. I don't come from here and go out. I'm all out there and I come in. I manifest this. Bloody hell, this is different. And then stuff that I'm still wrapping my awareness around. We think of time, it's linear. There's past, there's now, and there's future. Actually, I still got more to learn. But apparently, this isn't so. Time seems to be, and there's more than one person saying this, an effect of what's happening, with those little PSUs that are spinning around in the vacuum, and when they get organised and when they don't. It's an effect of some of the stuff that goes on at that level. And more importantly, it's like, that's so what? Okay, well, that's really cool, but who cares? More importantly, as we travel through our lives, as we live our lives, everything that we do creates a frequency, and it leaves an imprint. And we're not actually spinning in one spot in space here. We're making spirals. The Earth is orbiting the sun, and the sun is orbiting in the galaxy, and the galaxy's orbiting the whole in the universe. And there's this big spiral, and we're moving through space and time. And as we resonate, we leave a footprint, and it's called space memory. Those are the words that NASM uses for it. And what it turns out is that, and I can say this from personal experience, space memory is changeable. And I know because I've been changing it. And I finally realized, well, hell, if I don't like the past and space memory is not fixed and time can be changed, I'm just going to choose a new past. And that sounds fantastic. But I've done this. And in particular, I chose, there was trauma when I was born. Nothing dramatic. But I was separated from my mother instead of left to bond with her. And that affected my entire life. I never connected with Mum. And that had big impacts for me and for her, I'm sure. And I decided, and that was where my lack began, by the way, in this lifetime. And I just decided one day recently, you know what? I'm just going to choose a different past. I'm going to assume a different history. I'm going to assume that she said, go away to the nurses when they came to pick me up and take me away and clean me up. No, I'm going to hold my baby and do my thing. You can clean her up later. I'm just going to completely choose a different life. That's what happened. And it was a very powerful and very emotional meditation that I was doing. just because of what I was experiencing inside my mind. And that was fine. But then what happened was when I went looking, because it was kind of, oh, where'd it go? For the heavy feeling that has just been inside me forever, it wasn't there. It's not there. It's never come back. I changed my past. Oh, in my mind, I can say, well, this happened and that happened, and I live like that. But the whole, it's gone. It's different. It's all I can say. Space, memory, time, the past is totally changeable. I get it now. This is real. And so this is what the 0 point field and I were writing today, is this thing to say, this is actually, this is what happened in the gap. This is what happened between the end of what I was doing in 2021 and this process that 0 point field and I are doing now. This is what gave rise to it. And the whole point is that the 0 point field is teaching me, and the 0 point field wants to teach you. And the invitation is there. Now, it's an invitation with a certain frequency to it, which is, this is not a thing that you just read the book and 5 minutes later you can do it. This is the journey. Are you interested in the journey? Do you want to know? If you don't, that's cool. Something else will call you. But if you do, the invitation from the 0 point field is, well, get in touch. It really is that simple. This is something, excuse me, this is something that I'm in the process of learning and applying. Anybody who's hung around with me for a little while knows that I'm really only interested in things I can use. And this is something I can use. And it might not be for you, and that's fine. But if you're curious and you think, well, maybe this could be something that's useful to me, well, the door is open. So that's really all I've got to say today. It's this ongoing journey, and you're invited to participate. You can follow me for free on Patreon, and I'd love you to do that just so you can hear. When I read this, I will read this into a video and post it in a couple of days, and you can listen to what we wrote today. I think it's pretty cool. You might think otherwise, that's fine. But if you'd like to hear what I wrote, what we wrote, because it's not me, I'm just translating, it's a team effort, then you just need to follow me for free on Patreon, and you will get the emails. There are 3 emails a week, and one of them is just when I put this video up into Patreon, because I'll do that as well. So you won't be spammed, and you can always unsubscribe. And I would love to see you there. I'd love to know what you think. And if you're curious and you want to learn more, then let me know. We'll both look forward to sharing with you. So until next week, much love. See you then. Bye-bye.